welcome everyone. This is Nichel Anderson. I'm your host for my podcast show, Surviving Your Journey Towards Success. So happy. Year 2025, we are rolling in right before my finale. I'm wrapping up my show next month. And this month here in April, we're going to focus on episode 137 of my season 8. How about that, y'all? And the title of my show today is talking about why having your courage against bullies guarantees your success. Okay, we're going to get into that as a survivor of growing up with bullies, as a survivor of dealing with them throughout my journey, which was a lot, y'all. It could be in the family, it can be at the workplace, it could be just pretty much you walking around and you deal with one. For me, I was always connected to being in the same environment with them for a long time. And then God brought me out of that. And here I am. I want to give back and help those that are going through dealing with bullies of how you can find the courage, implement the courage, and be the courage. So my name is Nichel Anderson. I wrote a book, Surviving Your Journey Towards Success. Do check out that book. You can get it on Amazon. I had reviews on there, and for whatever reason, a couple of years ago, they just disappeared. But I'm giving a side eye on that. So if you do have the book, do leave a review on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. If you haven't decided to purchase it, I encourage you to purchase that. It does help what I'm doing here to fund that, so I do appreciate it. So let's get into this in my prayer to start my podcast show. And I appreciate y'all tuning in today. Tuning in. How about that? All right, so with that done and said, I want to thank everyone and welcome survivors of my journey to my podcast that aims to inspire and motivate that you will continue to have joyfulness in your heart, peace of mind, and for your sustained success. So in this episode 137, why having your courage against bullies guarantee your success? Well, that deals with you're finding out that you had it the whole time. See, bullies that I learned is number one, they see something in you that they want. Number two, bullies attack you because they have no worth, mainly because they did it themselves. Choices matter. And when they choose to go negative, when they choose to take, what that does, it reduces their worth. It does not increases it. That's the misbelief that they believe. Some of them get out of that, repent and understand it. Others do not. So number three, why having your courage against bullies guarantee your success? Because it elevates your position of value, respectability. Last month, I had an episode of why you should demand respect. Do check that out and share it. The other to the point number three is that when you have courage, you define your boundaries. You define what is acceptable to where you are. Okay, that's why when some people want to take for someone else, knowing they haven't earned it, they haven't done nothing, I can have testimonies about that. They never keep it. You know why? It's because they never earned it. So when you're communicating in a way with courageous to say, I will stand this, or I will, in that I mode or what have you, or who you are, build that courage. You build your foundation. You build not only just your worth, that is so important, but you build your mindset to block that. Bullies use a very toxicity type approach to take away, to destroy. And if you're not built up to handle those blows, it can overwhelm you. So as a survivor of dealing with not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven. I can go on and on how many bullies I had to endure. Some of them in a group at one time. How awful to do that to another human. But yet they did because they saw something in me that was more than who they are. What they needed to do was to have the courage, hear me now, courage to look at themselves and say, I am that crap, let me fix that. Let me clean that up. And they won't. So it's easier. That's why you're being bullied. Those that are listening to this podcast, it was a reason why you tune in today is to get this wisdom, to get this healing effect. It's because they see what they wish they are. They see the success that you will become. So when you have the courage to say no, when you have the courage that you ain't finna go here, you create the stepping stones, the stepping forward movement to get your success. So now let me move into my segment today. My segment that I normally start is my wisdom point to really get into it. So when we demonstrate, number one point of my wisdom point section is that when we demonstrate courage to say what needs to be said to defend your space, your boundaries to bullies, we amplify our calling to the present and what we were called to do. That is our talent. That is our purpose. Okay. That's very important. So when you do that, you live in your courage, in that energy. So number two is living in who you are, what your goals are. And bullies come around to destroy that, to make you feel, and I feel like people are saying yes to that, to take away what you already have in your heart and your mind. That's why courage is worth like gold. You hear me? And when you focus on that, you can write courage down like on a piece of paper. You put it on a plaque that you keep looking at that. That's tied to when you're dealing with bullies. Because it took courage in me to say no. It took courage in me to push back. It took courage in me to fight back. This is the journey that I chose, like the journey that they chose. You have the right to be at the table. You have the right to leave the table. So that's the main wisdom point is when you live in courage, you do encourage courageous things. And that brings you success because guess what? They are the blockage. They are the wall. They are all of that. And once you remove that, you get to your guaranteed success. All right. Number three is basically bullies are nothing more than miserable haters, and people want to be in what you have, right? Not just the physical, but it's the core of them that the seed that you vibrate on, that your energy are. So they willing to do anything, say anything, da da da. They always angry. You know what you need to do? What listen to my podcast show in the early year, starting the new year in January, where I say you just smile, smile. That's the spray to get them away. I didn't mean to rhyme, but hey, it is what it is, okay? All right, so now let's talk about the top three things. Why having your courage against bullies guarantee your success? All right, so the main point, number one, is what you say do matter to bullies that want to take away your power, your happiness, your ability to just smile. Look, I was just talking about that. And it becomes like wearing an outfit or some type of garment that elevates your mind, elevates your mood, elevates your ability to keep moving forward. They want something that you have, even though you might feel, I don't have nothing, but actually you do. And if you feel like financially that you don't, but they still, that means it's spiritual and it's some type of energy that they feel that you just vibrate different than them. That's what they want. All right. Number two, your courage defines your boundaries that are important to know when you might have to defend it either by what you say or to what you have to do to push bullies away from you. And you can just say, I mean, you can say anything that you want. At the end of the day, the goal is the intent to say the power of speech in a way that you are protecting yourself and you're pushing them back. They want to destroy, build up, and upward, and just keep going like a pyramid. All right. Third point is I'm touching on this courage again, y'all. Having courage releases the anxiety that restricts thinking and knowing. So when you have courage to say, this is being a bully, you're doing this, you're doing that, you put on your armor, I like to say armor of God, and you go swinging. Sometimes you don't have to swing a couple times. You swing one time. I never forget, I'm going to share this testimony. I was in the fifth grade. I always treated everyone nice and kind. I never could process that, thanking the Lord. My mind ain't like that in the sense of wanting to hurt someone else because the hurt is internal. That's like going in the opposite direction, but you're looking for something, but it's that way. You hear me? Anyway, I know that was deep but clear. But nonetheless, but I remember we had to line up outside and before you can go in and go into your class. And I already had a bad day, growing up with a bully off of, I was gonna come up with another word, what that was, of being bullied that morning as a child before I can leave to feel less than what I was. Later, I noticed it was just jealousy and hatred and misery of that person in a role of authority. So I was already having a bad morning Okay. And I was leaning down that you really couldn't see me, but yet they saw me. I remember it was three of them. One of them I thought was my friend, was nice to me. But bullies like to always go in packs because they have to have that self grandeur. They this and that, but they're not. And so they go to weaker people. And I say weaker people in the mind when all you got to say, well, that's wrong because she's my friend and she's been so nice. They don't do it. And they follow the bullies, unfortunately. And so they get into the karma mix because you better believe they got karma after that. But nonetheless, it was the leader of it that I knew she was one of my friend, but I never spoke to her. But she must have seen me and saw the other person that she had pulled. It was three of them that we was friends, what have you. And I remember looking like, so you gonna stand with that person? You're gonna let that person just? She was just started calling me different names, just talking about. And this was like 30 kids out. And I'm kneeling down because I got tired of standing up and I was just frustrated because I had a bad morning, right? It was one of those days. If you've been in an abusive childhood, you know those days. It's just like constant attack on you, non-stop. Words are just like throwing weapons, okay? So I never forgot it, never forget that moment. And just kept doing it. And I just kept looking at first the person that I thought was my, after that moment, I never talked to her again because I feel like you never was and you're beneath me. Because to do that, you're not human. That's how I realized that. And I remember turning and looking at that person I thought was my friend, and then the other three, the leader, and she's just raising her voice. Here I am. I mean, I'm what age that was. I was in, we was fifth grade, and I turned around. I didn't look at him, and I just said, I just don't give. The word now is based. I just don't give. Y'all know the rest of y'all United States. And I stood up, and I looked at the leader, and I looked at the other two. In my mind, I didn't say nothing, but in my mind, I basically said, bring it. And I don't give a whatever because it's basically what they say, most people say now, not today. Really not ever because I didn't deserve it. So that was another thing that was pissing me off. And I just said, I'm not that type of person that want to fight and do all this. But at the same time, you're going to leave me the hell alone. This will end. I never forgot the way they looked at me. They backed up and I turned around and I kneeled down and I went back minding my business. And there you are. There you are. And there I was. And it was time for us to go, to our class. I stood up and I walked. I never turned back and looked at them. They were still running. I don't know. But they didn't mess with me ever again. I graduated from the fifth grade and went to the sixth grade and mind my business. So that's how you do it. You have the courage to say, and I'm laughing now, but I was like, what? Are you kidding me? All that I gotta go through? They probably had wonderful parents. They had nowhere need what I was going through. And you can't leave me alone. You just can't understand what the hell I'm going through that I got to deal with. And you said, oh, hell no. Then I'm just like, nice and kind and everything. Haven't done nothing to nobody. The world was going to make sense after that fight. I tell you. They would, man, that look on their faces. They never spoke to me again. I never had no problems. I graduated fifth grade like no problems. I had the best math teacher. Her name was Miss Patterson. And I went on about my business to the sixth grade. And met another good teacher too, Miss Knight. And she taught me how to accept and love my name. I never forget that. She was connected to a celebrity. Her daughter married one. I'm not going to give the name then. But nonetheless, and that helped me to get to the next grade. So yes, anyhow, what that story was and testimony is to visualize and to be your courage and to stand up to bullies to get your success. So fast forward, if I didn't have done that, and don't worry, I got some other stories too later on, but each time I did that, do get those, like I said earlier on another podcast, where you get the hard head ones that want to come, da 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 da. That's the universe, okay? take care of that and you keep moving forward. All right. I was going to do my motivation, but I think telling that story, and that was like live, that's come for me to share that. It's basically to always keep forward moving in your conversation. I didn't even say that. When you get into your worth and you get to that point, you don't have to say, and I hear some people, I just feel like they're going to say, yes, been there, done that. They pick up that energy wave and they back up. Okay. And that's your motivation takeaway. How about that? All right. I'm going to leave that like that, y'all. I don't think I need to talk about no visual. Your dust to die is basically to visualize your worth and live it like I did, like my testimony. Do it. All right. I'll talk to y'all in the next one.